In the gruesome aftermath of last week's latest in a string of mass murders that have plagued the remote regions of Crystal Lake, the final two survivors, a 12-year-old boy and his teenaged sister who lived in this house, have been moved to a county sanitarium for psychiatric examination. The boy, who is reported by Police Chief Scott Fitzsimmons to have savagely hacked the suspected serial killer to death with a machete, is said to be suffering from extreme psychological duress, the culmination of a week-long bloodbath which left his mother and at least 12 other victims brutally murdered. I'm Terrence Wynn for ION News.
Chapter 4 of my book is called The Final Chapter. It's not. It is an account of the murder spree of the third Crystal Lake killer, and that was witnessed by a young boy named Tommy Jarvis. And Tommy was so traumatized by the things that he saw that he spent the next 6 years locked up in a mental hospital.
They actually thought about trying Tommy for manslaughter.
But they knew they'd never get a conviction. This was a 12-year-old boy who took out a man who slaughtered dozens, including Tommy's own mother.
I was a rookie back in those days. I remember it like it was yesterday. We walked into a bloodbath. Even the older guys there, they had never seen nothing like it.
When Tommy kept insisting that the guy he hacked up was Jason Voorhees, well, they locked him up.
Problem solved.
He was put on the standard drug therapies of the time, but often had to be kept in isolation after several violent episodes with fellow patients and hospital staff.
Yeah, I remember Tommy. I was working at the hospital the night they brought him in. He was a real freaked out kid, and he's real pale, and his head had been shaved, and you could tell by the way he looked at you with those black eyes that he had seen some really serious shit.
Tommy never had many visitors other than his sister Trish, but his progress was minimal, and after a while she just stopped visiting.
There was this one night where another orderly tried to take his tray of food away before he was done eating, and just Tommy started shaking and he freaked out and he grabbed a fork and he stabbed him right in the arm.
Yeah, I remember Tommy Jarvis. He was bald. He had a cell. We had a little place we shared in the room together, and he wouldn't play tiger with me. He'd hit me! He'd hit me like a bad tiger because I pee-pee on the floor.
When Tommy reached the age of 18, the state was no longer legally able to hold him, so he was transferred to the Pinehurst Youth Center. It's kind of a halfway house for at-risk kids. And let's just say he didn't last there very long.
There was some controversy about Tommy's transfer to Pinehurst. We felt it was too close to the site of his childhood trauma, but funding was tight and Pinehurst had an opening, so he went. And that's when it started, yet again.
Shortly after Tommy got to Pinehurst, he witnessed another brutal murder. A fellow patient named Victor J. Fadden, long history of violence, went berserk with an axe and chopped up one of his fellow patients.
You could almost say that Jason's dark influence returned to Crystal Lake along with Tommy. It infected everyone around them.
Especially Roy Burns.
Roy Burns, yeah, he was a local paramedic, quiet guy, bit of a loner. Well, turns out he was also responsible for the slayings up at Pinehurst. Decided for whatever reason to don the mask and act out his own version of the Voorhees legend. Because you see, it was Roy's son, Joey, who got all hacked up at the woodpile.
This violent incident triggered a relapse in Tommy, and he quickly began to lose his grip on reality.
And that's when the murders started again. Another killer using the familiar Voorhees MO.
Look, just because Roy Burns turned out to be a Jason imposter, that doesn't mean the real Jason's influence wasn't involved. After all, everybody knows the etymology of the name Jason comes from the Hebrew for healer, ambulance driver.
I got the 411 on this whole situation. My little cousin, Reggie, well, we used to call him Reggie the Reckless. Reggie lived up in that nut house with my granddad. After that Tommy moved in, some ambulance driver just came in and just started chopping he had knives and shit, and I thought they came to help. But I thought that's what the ambulance did. That's what the ambulance do. Dude even killed Reggie's brother, man. Demon. He killed him in the shit box, man. You don't die in the shit box.
I was just a kid when it happened, 12, 13 years old. I don't know who was more obsessed with Jason Voorhees, Roy Burns, Tommy Jarvis. Doesn't matter. My sister Vi is still dead. We were as close as two sisters could be, me and Violet. Even got our first piercings together. She taught me my favorite dance. And I dedicate my art to her, what I do. This one's for you, Vi.
In a bizarre and perhaps grimly ironic turn of events, the latest rash of killings committed in the Crystal Lake area ended abruptly on the part of the actions of a young, and some would say, reckless child.
Reggie took his imposter ass down, man.
He did take him down, though.
Talking, man. Anyway, Reggie had on that little red jumpsuit. You know what I'm talking about? A little sweatsuit. It's so cute. He got the pants to match with the hood and all that. But anyway, he pushed the old cracker off the barnyard onto the bed of spikes. Blah, blah. You don't mess with Reggie like that. You just don't do shit like that, man. I mean, he might scream like a little bitch, but he'll fuck your ass up. Even in that little red suit. All day, every day.
Now, this incident proves empirically that the Jason slayings were nothing more than a series of murders perpetrated by copycats.
It proves nothing.
Just because there was one copycat, that does not mean Jason wasn't involved. This was an isolated incident. And thankfully, we never had to see old Roy again.
But even if Jason was dead and buried, his essence, his life force, his joie de vivre was still alive and well.
You don't kill the joie de vivre.
We never totally wrote off the idea that Roy could have been working with the previous killers. Found a heck of a lot of newspaper clippings in his files dating all the way back to the earlier massacres. But you know, Roy is dead and buried now, so we may never know.
But there's another theory. That Roy put on the mask to try to pin the murders on Tommy Jarvis.
Tommy Jarvis. His role here was, in a sense, that of a mere observer. He was a silent witness to a physical manifestation of the shadow self that had long hidden inside him. Looking closer, we can find direct parallels between the Voorhees case and the Burns incident. Like Pamela Voorhees, Roy Burns had a psychotic break after the untimely death of a child. Roy's was an open and shut case, but the legend of Jason lives on to this day.